There we go. Google Hangouts is live. So, let's just to start with what do you each think it means? What it would be like to be a TSA agent? Skylar, want to go first?
How would it feel to be a TSA
Or
agent?
what do you think it's like to work, to do that job?
Um, it just depends because I think it's like it's pretty straightforward as long as things go according to plan, and for the most part, they do. The only thing that I think would be stressful is like when people argue with you saying like, "Oh, like I should be allowed to have this or I should be allowed to have that." And it's just that's just how the law is. Like since 9/11, that's just everything's higher security and honestly, I'm grateful for it, but some people don't see it that way. A lot of people see it as like,
Yeah.
well, I should be allowed to bring my water bottle on the plane because what is that going to do to anybody? But it's like, yeah, but would you rather have these strict guidelines and be safe, or would you rather be able to have it a little bit more loose and have the possibility of, catastrophe? So I think it can be stressful. I think
Yeah.
I don't know if I would like that job. I
You
think it
work with the
uh,
public now, right?
me.
Yeah.
I just do events, and so nothing too
Not one
crazy,
on one,
but
though, too much.
yeah,
Okay.
necessarily. Just I meet with people and make sure they have everything they need. So
Okay. How about you, Christy? What do you think would be like to be a TSA agent?
Well, I actually have a brother-in-law who works as a TSA agent. Although I haven't talked to him too much about it. He's more of a supervisor TSA person now, I think. I don't know. It seems like steady work. um, I don't know. I don't feel like there's a lot of. I mean, you can go up, but I think it's slow work going up in rank. But he seems okay with it. I think he enjoys working with people. Um, yeah, like Skylar said, I'm sure there are things that are stressful, the people that don't want to follow the rules and think that's silly, or just the grumpy passengers that are late for their flight. But I imagine it's something you have to be alert for so you don't miss things like the guy in our uh
Right.
thing. I can't remember think of the word.
I personally think it would be a very stressful job
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
I
a
guess
lot of
it depends on the airport. There's small airports where it's pretty, like I said, pretty straightforward, and then there's like the
large airports,
Denver airport, the DC airport, JFK,
Orlando.
all those things, humongous airports. Yeah, I think that.
I have found that traveling a lot, like up in Idaho, I think it's funny when you go through their TSA because
Yeah.
usually you can see security and you can see where the plane's going to land where you're walking out, and they're really usually really strict compared to the large ones where, and if anyone was going to breach security, they'd probably do it in a large airport, like like this one at Logan, where they
Right.
could just because there's so many people going on at once. But you're right, and some TSA agents are a blast, and then others are grumpy all the time. Because
So true.
I've been through airports at Orlando, Tampa, Austin, Fort Lauderdale, international ones, Los Angeles, and sometimes you're. Christy will tell you, being in the military and you're dragging 3 or 4 kids in a car seat, and you've just had a 14-hour ride, and the kids didn't sleep; they screamed the whole time.
Hmm.
You're seeing people sometimes at their worst too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
My brother-in-law used to work at this teeny tiny airport in Dubuque, and like he'd go to work for a couple hours and then they'd take like a 3-hour break or something, and then he'd go back to work again because it was so small. They would let people go home when there were no airplanes.
right,
Like,
that's how
so
they
it's
used
kind
to do
of hard.
some of the military things too. They would because they'd be like on a 24-hour shift, kind of like a fireman or something. You know what I mean? And they'd send them back. So
Hmm.
okay, now getting back down to our case, since we all have our mindsets of what it is to be a TSA agent, I guess. Um, mm, Christy, so what do you think O'Reilly should do about Sanchez? This is
Well, you know what? I'm more of a pushover, but I don't think she should fire him. It was an honest mistake. It wasn't like willful disobedience. Like going out of his way. Just like we talked about in the DWP. They have the informal plan, performance improvement discussion. You know, maybe do some training, some retraining, maybe.
He's been retrained once before.
I know. So maybe, what do? They have the formal reminder.
I think some of it's on the travel. Wasn't the traveler who did this actually experienced and should have known better than to do what he did?
Probably.
Because if he'd even walked up, I think, to Sanchez, and because they said he was like a regular, and maybe he said, "Can I go through?" He might have let him through because they have that frequent flyer plan now.
Mm-hmm.
He might have recognized him. He didn't even try to be a respectful traveler, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's just as much on him as it is on the TSA agent. It's kind of like what Skylar was saying a while ago, the ones who want to argue with you. You're not supposed to have that thing. It's like I've had people in front of me go, "Oh, crud, I still have my gun in my suitcase." And they turn around and run out, they leave to go put it in the car or something.
Yeah.
Well, if you're the person who carries a concealed weapon all the time, it's kind of like just having your...
Or you might forget about it. Yeah, just second nature. But also, if you're going to the airport, for the most part, that's not something that you easily forget about. Like, when you go to the airport, I mean, and this is just me, and I don't speak for everybody, but when you go to the airport, I can't have shampoo, I can't have water that exceeds this many milliliters, I can't have sharp objects that exceed this many.
I will though, because it's like I have a bag and I keep like a 20-ounce bottle of water in it all the time, and you'll be in line and go, "Oh man!" So I'll go pour it out and then keep the bottle.
No, and I agree with that, but that's the thing is, but like a weapon, like that's not something. A pair of
folding scissors.
Yeah.
That you have there for just emergencies or something, you know what I mean?
Emergency sewing.
What? Haven't you ever had to cut a tag off?
No, I'm being serious. I'm saying like an emergency, like I, especially on
like
my
mission. Like a little first aid kit or something.
Yeah, on my mission, I had a little sewing kit, like an emergency sewing kit in my...
The military issues them to us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because you never know when you have to sew a button back on.
Yeah, so I'm being totally serious.
Yeah, so, and stuff like that, it's just in the bottom of your case or your... And you just don't think about it.
Yeah, I just had it in my backpack all the time.
Yeah,
so I guess it just depends. Like if you were concealed carrying like a gun or something like that, I mean that's different. I feel like
you would think that
you strap onto you. That's not something that you just like. Oh,
but see, some people don't strap it on. They carry it in the briefcase, or women carry it in their purses, and they just don't think about them.
I guess you're right.
You wouldn't think they wouldn't think about them, but you don't think about it till you need it.
And can you imagine being a TSA agent and then you send a bag through the X-ray and then something like that shows up? I mean, like this is not a drill, that'd be pretty stressful.
So, but so you don't think he should be terminated, right? You think he should be counseled?
How about maybe a demotion? Because you're right, he has been. I think he did some training or something. Because it
was not a serious incident, but they said they had trained him.
Yeah, they'd had to retrain or something. So maybe a demotion.
Yeah.
But he's such a good employee. She talks about how he's such a good employee and he's so enthusiastic and all that. And it's just it's a shame to someone that's passionate about their job.
I agree, because it's kind of a thankless job.
Yeah.
It's like those poor people. I always stop people who empty the trash and clean the bathrooms and tell them thank you, because it's a thankless job, but they make our lives better.
And in this it talks about the newer TSA agents, how they're just using it as a stepping stone, so they're not even in it for the long haul. And this guy is, so
yeah,
I don't know. I think you got to look at that too.
So what's your Skylar? What do you think? Do you think she should be terminated or?
It's hard to say because, like you're saying, so if it's a smaller incident where it's like just retraining was necessary. I worked with a guy at a salvage yard, and he was blind in one eye. Nicest guy you'll ever meet, but he was just kind of dumb, And he
wasn't fit for the job, right?
Yeah, and so it's like he's so nice to people. Great guy, I think he's great, but like you can't put him on a forklift after he's crashed like twice and almost taken someone's leg off. You can't put them behind the wheel of a forklift after that.
So do you think that
I think he should maybe reassigned or something like that. Yeah, but I don't know if I would fire him. It just depends on case by case, just because I don't know. It's tough. I don't know.
Yeah. I was saying, I thought maybe he should be promoted.
Why do you say that?
How would he feel if he was in O'Reilly's position and he has all these people under him that he's responsible for,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts seeing them do stupid stuff? Maybe he has to, maybe that should be his disciplinary action. He has to be supervisor for a week just to see what it's like to have to watch all these other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes, there's a thing in the military. We always say you promote people until they're I'm trying to think how we say their incompetency doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Not that he's incompetent, because he was checked. If I understood it correctly in the diagram, he was like in one of the exits, right?
Mhm.
Where people shouldn't have been going in anyway.
Right.
Only people should be coming out.
Yeah.
And if the other passenger hadn't seen it, it would have went up and no one would have ever known.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's still, if it
That's
had
so
been,
unfortunate. One
yeah, but
time.
if it had been a terrorist, it would have been a bad thing. So it's kind of like, my question was,
How serious do you want to take it is the thing.
and we don't have TSAs. They didn't give us, we don't have their law. Is there, because it was an international incident, shut down all these airports. Does she even have a choice?
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe not, because it's hard because it's something like that. That's why, like I said, that's why it was implemented, is because of 9/11.
Okay. So we're going to
So
some of the.
You almost have to have a zero tolerance policy, otherwise you're allowing for gaps. For
My
people.
husband said, does the passenger get banned for life for doing something stupid too? Is he put on a no-fly list for a while? Because he's the one who did something stupid.
Right.
He knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Sanchez fires him, who's going to replace him? As Christy was saying, the new ones just start taking things. It's a job. They don't see it as a calling.
Mm-hmm.
And what would the other TSOs think if he gets away with it?
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's hard because you almost have to have a zero tolerance, like I said. So I don't know who you would have replace him, but I almost feel like
it's like having
people might also think, well, now we can't be messing around. Like, we got to take it more seriously.
Yeah, I can see that too. But like you said, maybe a different job, maybe something that isn't security related so much, or something else in the airport. I don't know.
Like we were saying, on remedial training, and his job is not to work the line for a while. He has to do something else. Like maybe he has to train everyone else.
Yeah.
And the new ones to explain to them what the seriousness of it is.
Yeah, that could be good.
It says, is a discipline without punishment approach appropriate in this case?
Discipline without what?
The abstract thing we read, discipline without punishment.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that there were some immediate, even in this system, there were some immediate dismissals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's serious enough, you immediately dismiss. But I guess the question is, do we think this is serious enough for immediate dismissal?
I thought it was interesting. Common disciplinary problems is like when you're trying to discuss something with an individual, and it lists as common disciplinary problems. It says the employee is silent. If an employee refuses to respond in order to intimidate or block you, that is insubordination and cause for termination.
Mm-hmm.
It does mention earlier that you have to do this on a case-by-case basis on a personality, and you would know whether or not someone's being quiet because they're really, truly upset about what they did, or if they're trying to intimidate you. I guess, you'd have to take it.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty serious, but how many times has he had something come up like this before?
I think he's only had one other incident since he's been working.
Yeah, because if you implement the system that they're talking about, it's just like you have a lot of strikes. You have a lot of chances to be better.
Right.
So if it was just once before, he's got a couple of informal performance reviews,
and it restarts too, because if you were given a disciplinary, even if you got to a formal reprimand or reminder, right?
Mm-hmm.
if you're good after 6 months, it gets to reset, or a year, and then kept going up. So it's been I think it's been at least it didn't say how long, did it, since the last time?
I
don't think it's so, because the same thing could have happened too. She said he was friendly and outgoing, which you want them to be, to make travelers have a better experience. Someone could have snuck past him while he was talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he was talking to her daughter is the same. It's not much different. That's where they say hand-free devices. There are some people who shouldn't talk at all while they're driving, right? Whether it's hands-free or on a phone. They get distracted when they're talking. Huh? People like that?
I'm one of those people. I'm safe, but I always miss my exits if I'm talking on my phone. I use the hands-free. I do, but I'll miss exits and turns, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So because you're watching the traffic and not the extra stuff, probably. Let's say. What stage of the process do you think you'd be at? The scholar was just saying.
Yeah, it just.
Well, if this is his second time, I guess we'd be on the.
He's already had it would be at least formal reminder too, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Okay.
Because he would have had the first time.
The informal, and then he would have had some sort of performance review, I guess.
I was thinking since they actually had put him in remedial training and stuff, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like it's formal reminder 1. Maybe it's 2, but
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the problem is this sounds so public.
I know.
If it hadn't to shut everything down and messed up flights across the country, I can't imagine it even being O'Reilly. I have to, though. I have to write my assignment this week.
No.
Aren't y'all glad y'all doing this one? I have to do a press release.
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing for poor Sanchez.
Uh-huh.
You could just say that it's being handled internally.
Yeah, because I don't think because you wouldn't release names. That's how I'm thinking too. So
right,
that just it's being further investigated and disciplinary action will be taken. Well, and they go, and you can just hear if you're standing in front of the press, they're going to go. So is he being dismissed?
Yeah.
Will the chosen course of action satisfy the airport and the public? See.
Probably not the public. The public always wants like the harshest.
They want your head.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so it's like,
too.
But that's not always the best approach, and so that's what we're trying to decide. I guess it's how much do you value Sanchez, and if he's someone you want to keep around, and that's basically the bottom line. If not, if you feel like okay, we're going to make an example out of him, then you go that way and you say he's been dismissed. We've taken care of it. A breach of security is very serious to us, and we want to take it seriously. And something like that can't be excused, or overlooked. You could go that way, or you could say, well, it's being handled internally. It's not really the public's business, the details, but however.
When we were talking about, in the decision-making process too, right? In the disciplinary actions, according to this gentleman's book, right? On the what is it? Discipline without punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Would we be, because like we were saying, it's almost like the public's demanding his termination, and we want to keep him. Do we leave it up to him, as they suggest in this, that he's given time off and then he has to decide what he wants to do?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's tough.
Whether or not he thinks he can improve this, and that I think with a lot, as if I was O'Reilly, would depend on his attitude. It's like,
yeah, I agree.
If he's had that attitude, it was like, what are you going to do? I've got tenure, right?
Yeah.
Or something. Or if he feels truly, because it was, the airport was closed for 45 minutes, with significant delays across the country. Embarrassed the airport, TSA. How bad would it be to be fired? Does the severity of the consequences make a difference if it results in the same behavior? You know, is it going to make a difference to everyone else?
I
Like
think
we were
it
saying,
probably would. It would send a message to me if I was in that position. I'd be like, oh, I really have to watch myself.
yeah,
Um,
but isn't it human nature? You know, like, okay, you're like, I cannot be on my phone. I'm not going to do my phone, and you're not going to do it for like probably maybe even 6 months if you're good, right? And then you start slipping back into your old habits, won't you?
maybe.
You don't think, since it wasn't you personally?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Here's another question. If none of us thought he should be fired, what would it take for him to be fired?
Well, I think the third incident or just not willing to try better or take this seriously. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I always hated these in the military. They used to give us questions like this on our promotion test. So what would you do? And they give you so many choices, and you're like, I want more questions answered. I want to talk to a guy. Right?
So, can I tell you my own answer?
Right? Can I talk to the guy first? I have some more questions. Let's see. I think I already covered this, but was it entirely Sanchez's fault?
I feel like that's a lot to ride on just one person. Yeah, I understand. Like, I mean,
Yeah, he
how
went
many
through
people
his
can you
gate.
put there? But at the same time, it's like you don't have a checks or balances. There's no other line of defense if that was to break down. You know, I feel like there has to be incorporated something else.
That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, security in the military is always in pairs, kind of like church. You know what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
work alone. There's someone else there as a witness and to be your backup. Because even if he saw the passenger, what's he supposed to do? Leave his post and run after the guy?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you could do in your press release. It's just like we're upping security and these are the measures we're taking. Like we're adding
Sure.
additional security like with him or maybe a second point that they have to go through or pass through or something. I don't know.
Right.
But I mean, there is already so much security, so I don't know.
Yeah. And then at some places it's really weird. If I open my wallet and they see my military ID, they put me in a different line and give me a free ride, basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It depends on the airport, but they'll look at you and they go, "Oh, you're military. Go over there. You're exempt. You don't have." Sometimes you still have to do walk through a metal detector, but they won't go through your bags as much because they're assuming you already know you've done it enough. Because you know the military was doing this kind of pat down before 9/11. You went through a lot of stuff. I used to hate it when they used to when they search my suitcase and you'd have a layover in Hawaii and they'd search you for fruits and vegetables because those are dangerous. Well, they are. I know they're dangerous because, like here in Florida, if something comes in and it ruins the crop, it puts a lot of people out of work. But it just seemed ridiculous. I used to tell them, "Yeah, I'm in Japan paying for $9 tomatoes just to sneak them into Hawaii, where I can get them for 59 cents." Right?
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. Are there appropriate policies in place to prevent security lapses? You know, why weren't there breaks? He was doing like a second shift too during a 24-hour period. Maybe they need to do something like that, right? Not allow things like that, huh?
Yeah, because he got off at 8 and then started at 3. Yeah, that was something I was wondering about too. Like that's not even 8 hours for sleep right there.
Yeah.
So that seems a little iffy already. I mean, I know he's trying to get extra hours, but maybe they should have a policy that you can't do that. Like
you have to have at least an 8-hour break or something, right?
Yeah.
Like truck drivers and pilots and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I'm in a meeting right now.
Same with the military does that too. They have certain, like, you have to have certain amount of time in between things, especially when you're in security. How did the TSA hiring practices contribute or hurt the mission?
Do they mean like with the newer hires? Like
I think that's what they were saying. The way that the new practices are. They're basically hiring whoever they can get, aren't they?
That's what it seems like.
The salary's not that high either, is it?
Well, yeah, and that's why I think why a lot of the younger people just use it as a stepping stone because they're like, I don't want to be stuck in this.
It's better than no job.
Whatever. There's not a lot of not a high paying job, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they should look harder for better candidates. I don't know. Pay more.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
hard
like,
to say.
they're saying what percentage was Sanchez's fault and what percentage of the fault was the TSA. And see, they don't even put the passenger at fault here at all.
I know it's that mentality the customer is always right, but it's like that guy had to have known that he wasn't supposed to be doing that.
Right.
But
There's hundreds of thousands of people standing in line and he thinks he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But there are people who do that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the TSA, or I guess the airport itself, has a little bit of responsibility. I feel like more rests on Sanchez. But I mean, there should have been more security measures, and maybe he shouldn't have been allowed to work those two shifts so close together. So I mean, a little bit rests on them, but ultimately, he knew he shouldn't be on the phone. But
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing is a role playing. I'm glad I'm leader this week. Because it says choose a woman to play O'Reilly. And since there's only one and other one, you get that one, Christy. And Skylar gets to play Sanchez. And it's the moment where he has shown back up and you have to decide what you're going to have to do. You're going to have your discussion with him.
I have to make a decision right now.
Yep, you got to have this talk with him.
Oh, let me think for a second. Let me think for just a second. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. I'm not really going to say it in the role of this person. I can't do that. I'm not. But
none of us are actors. I've noticed that.
So obviously this is a serious issue. And we can't take it lightly because it's it is a security issue, a big security issue in the airport. They played, it was kind of national news. I mean, everybody found out. So I'm going to say we're going to retrain, but we're also going to do a demotion for 6 months, and then we'll reevaluate, and see how he does in his role, if he can, follow all the rules, basically. And then, yeah, I don't know. That's what I would do.
I don't know how to. I mean,
she didn't ask you any questions.
I'm also not sure, like, what he's expecting. Like, is he expecting to get fired, or is he just kind of like, I don't feel like this is my fault? I guess it's just.
Yeah, we don't have any of that information.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, how I would react is I would be like, I would probably think that I was in trouble. I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting fired. And then if you said I was just getting retrained, I'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that's just me personally. I don't know how he would react. But
from what they told us about Sanchez, he seems dedicated, and he's doing it for safety reasons. As wasn't he the one who made the comment when he sees somebody with a little child, he knows he's keeping them safe?
I don't remember for sure.
Or was that some other TSA agent? We'll assume it was him.
I can't remember. I mean, it does say he felt horrible when he left that day after it had been resolved. So
yes,
but I can't remember if it was him that said that about the kid. Maybe. But
he said, remember, he did this in response to 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yes. Do you feel this is fair, Sanchez?
I feel like this is very fair.
You could have started with asking him, so Sanchez, we have a serious conversation. We have a serious problem here. Our issue that happened yesterday. Where are you at this? How do you feel about what happened, and what do you think I should do?
That's a good idea.
Yes, that's a hard question, because I'd be like, yeah, you should probably fire me, like, because he's probably thinking it's his fault.
Which would actually show your regret.
Yeah.
And that you did something.
Yeah, because I'd be like, there's not really any way around it. Like, you were on your phone when you shouldn't have been. You didn't have permission to be doing that. You left your post, essentially, and you weren't paying attention, so that something else was able to happen. It could have been worse. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it still could have been pretty terrible.
So it's like, well, I mean, yeah, it was pretty bad.
Okay.
Okay. So they asked, so when you care about somebody, is it hard to have this discussion with them about their performance?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that makes it harder.
Yeah.
Caring about them. You see
Y'all
the
probably
potential?
haven't read it. It just came out in the last hour or two from President Eyring,
Mm-hmm.
which is very appropriate for this week. He talks about he went to a baptism this weekend, and an older gentleman talked about when his dad was president when it was Rick's College, sending him back home from wouldn't let him register until he went and trimmed his sideburns. and that how these standards are set to make us all better people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things I was trying to. Was it this class? They were talking about how we're given discipline. Heavenly Father gives us rules, and we're given discipline by. It's important to have discipline, and for people to tell us when we're doing something wrong to show we care, that they care about us, and that they want us to be able to do better. Because sometimes we're not even aware of our own faults.
Yeah.
You know. But if you care about somebody, sometimes you have to do the hard thing. It's like with children, sometimes the hardest thing, they do something horrible, but it's funny. And you're having to bite the insides of your cheeks, right? To keep from laughing so that you can let them know that this was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know? The discipline without punishment remind me of how we raised our youngest. We would send her to a room, which is kind of like that emergency that paid day off to go send, because that's what I thought of us. It's like sending you to your room and tell you to go think about what you did wrong, and then come back and talk to me and tell me what you did wrong, and us discuss what we need to do to fix it. What are we going to do to keep you from doing this again? Right? So, but last but not least, here we go. I get to tell you what happened.
Oh.
He did get a warning. He was not fired. Right?
Way to go, Christy.
But 2 months later, he had another serious breach.
Oh my gosh, Sanchez.
What do you do now?
You
and what
fire
does this
him.
case teach us about discipline? Huh?
You gotta fire him.
Yeah, that's 3 strikes and you're out, right?
Yeah, because it's like you can. I mean, even then, it's like they shouldn't. I mean, this was a pretty hefty like second chance.
Yeah. Well, let's hope the next one wasn't. Can you imagine if the next one was a big thing that had to have a press release, and they'll go, "Wasn't he the one involved 2 months ago? Why didn't you take care of it then?"
Exactly. So that's gotta be embarrassing for them.
I don't want to be that public affairs thing. I like the end of that. The get abstracted on distract. This discipline with punishment is something you have to put in the back of your mind, right? An effective disciplinary system has the potential to motivate employees to perform within acceptable standards. If you have to fire someone, then either you should go ahead and do the deed right away so that everyone can get going, or the system has faltered. If it had worked, the employee would have changed and termination would not have been necessary. The question is, would you end up with a long-term loyal employee or just one more piece of dead wood that you should have chopped when you had the opportunity? That's why it's always hard.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
It's gonna be super tough.
I've been in that situation before. I took over an office and I had one person, they'd taken away all chances of promotion. And he had to do his 4 years before they were going to let him out of the military.
Yeah.
How do you motivate someone like that? I won't tell you all my solution because it was before I joined the church, but it worked. The biggest thing, I guess, the way I could say is I pulled him into an office and I basically let him know that I cared. But until he improved, there was nothing I could do to help him. And he did start improving. And when he started improving, I was able to go to the commanders and start changing, the fact that he was going to be able to try for promotions and stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a rollback. The government decided to cut money and he got kicked out anyway. So, but at least I turned him around. And And in turning him around, it helped turn the team around too.
That's awesome.
So,
It
you know, sometimes you just have to show people you care. And I think that's what it was trying to show. But like we were saying, it depends on your job.
Mm-hmm.
Scholar, you didn't go through Pathway like me and Christy, right? Or did
No.
you go through Pathway, Christy?
I didn't do Pathway, no.
They made us do this. I think it was Pathway. It might have been one of the business classes. They made us compare. You know, people always ask, why does a pilot get 200,000 or whatever a year, right? And then the guy picking up, like the TSA agent, only makes 12,000 a year, because really security depends on that TSA agent if you think about it, right? And they say it's more to do with the responsibility and whether it's life threatening. To me, they're both life threatening. But when that pilot's in the air, he's responsible for over 500 lives. And that's why he gets paid more.
Mm-hmm.
And everything he does directly depends on his life. But where on the ground, it's a team of people who are taking care of trying to do the security. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. We never do the feedback session on each other, do we?
I
There's only-
tried the first time and it was super awkward. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So- Did you two say you got grades on your group or your first doohickey or where we did our evaluations? I need to ask him why I
First
haven't.
one, yeah, but
I didn't get-
evaluation. No.
Yeah, I didn't get a grade on my evaluation. It's like, what's he doing? Say to him at the end, because if somebody marks somebody down, I can just see how's that going to make the rest of the semester go.
That's interesting. I don't know
Okay.
if I didn't look, but I gave you all good evaluation.
Yeah,
So did
did
I.
well.
I said we actually have fun and enjoy ourselves, don't we?
Yeah.
And when any of us have a problem, we all just work around it.
Yeah.
We're very flexible. So I think that wraps everything up, though.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I'm with you, though. I think the press release should be nobody's business. It's like, yes, we had a security incident yesterday, and we're reevaluating our training process and our
Mm-hmm.
security processes and are taking necessary actions to correct them.
Yeah.
I don't think they need details.
Yep.
Because I couldn't do PA because I'd be, and why aren't we allowed to punish the passenger? Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a two-way street, people. The public has to obey by the rules, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it should be like at Disney. If you stand up if you do something really stupid, they give you a warning, I think. But if you do enough, they kick you out of Disney for life.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what we'll see little kids misbehaving. We're like, that's pretty dumb to do that at your age, because I hate to explain to my children and grandchildren why I can't go to Disney. And they just look at you like, no, that wouldn't happen. That's what we've heard anyway. But they were saying a guy recently, I guess, on one of the roller coasters, held up a Trump supporter sign on the roller coaster. And of course, it triggered, like, because it's so high, it triggered it as if someone was standing up and shut down the roller coaster. So he got banned.
Oh, that sucks.
Did he get banned?
You know, Disney is no place for
Uh,
politics. That's all I can say.
Yeah. That's what my husband said. It was actually for just displaying the sign
Yeah.
because it was considered advertising. You can wear a shirt.
Yeah. Real quick, I created a doohickeys.
I saw that.
Oh, I was
invited
just
you
about to ask about that. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Pasted the introduction. I changed the things. What order do we want to put it in? So we want to say organized labor is last.
Yeah, I don't think we don't really have a problem with that,
What
do we?
Yeah. What do
I
we
would
want to
think
say is
discipline and
first?
wages would be the most important, wouldn't it?
Okay, so we can do that. That's
Does that sound wrong, Christy? Or do you think benefits are more important?
I'm okay with whatever order.
That's what I'm wondering. What the last doohickey is going to be? Did we get to rewrite the 3 doohickeys and pick the incidences? Because out of all of them we've done, if you only picked 4,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? They would have been a
Favorite.
whole different order, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking my top 4 would not have been some of the ones we've done recently. They would have been in the first report, like, okay, let's take care of these first, and then we'll move on to
Yeah.
these.
Mm-hmm.
Because you would think sexual harassment, diversity, and safety probably would have been like the top 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they were.
So, Christy, you're doing discipline and wage and hour laws.
Yes.
Okay.
Were you surprised? Well, y'all, I know this is not on the TSA thing, but with our reading in general, were y'all surprised at some of the labor law things
Yes.
that a boss can work you as much as they want as long as they pay you time and a half?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised on the ages on that because wasn't it like it's 16 or something that it was like they could work unlimited hours? And I'm like, why don't we wait till 18 till they're done with high school? I know you can leave her. You don't want to.
There's a lot of states that you're basically almost considered an adult at like even 14.
Hmm.
Like in the state I grew up in, you can get married at 14 with your parents' permission.
Ugh, that's so weird.
Well, but at the same time, you used to only live to be 30, so 14 or 15 was middle age.
I guess. I don't know.
Some of these laws were written so long ago.
Yeah.
So, okay. I probably should stop our broadcast. So. But you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You want to meet next Tuesday just to see what's, at least check in for a few minutes if we can?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Alrighty.
See where we are on our doohickey, right? And if we're all survived the holidays.
Yeah. All right.
Don't eat too much. And be careful if you go anywhere.
Thanks.
Is this your first? So this isn't your first Thanksgiving overseas, is it?
No, we were in Japan before for Thanksgiving. We've done it there, and last year we were here for Thanksgiving too, weren't we? Yeah, we were.
So where were you in Japan?
Misawa.
That's where we were stationed.
Oh,
we did 6. We did 6 years there. We left kicking and screaming.
I know. I would go back there so fast. I loved it. It was the best.
So, okay. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.